So I want to ask you about another scenario. Imagine the election is tomorrow, and it's these 6 candidates that Cindy's going to put up on the screen. I'm going to ask you about the race if it looks like this. So imagine in your state, you go to vote, and you've got Kamala Harris, Donald Trump, Robert Kennedy Jr., Cornel West, Jill Stein, or the Libertarian Party candidate Chase Oliver. Or you could choose not to vote. So if the election were tomorrow, and these were your 6 choices, plus the choice of not voting, I'd like to know where you'd end up. So show of fingers, how many of you would take Vice President Harris in this scenario? One of you, Crystal. How many of you would take Trump? One of you, Chris. How many of you would take RFK Jr.? One, Teresa. How many of you take Cornel West? None of you. How many of you would take Jill Stein? None of you. How many of you would take Chase Oliver? 3, Audra, John, and Jason. Okay, so I've got, who's not voting? June, you're not voting in that situation. Okay. All right. Teresa, why is RFK Jr. attractive to you?
I've listened to a couple of his speeches, and he was more impressive to me than Harris or Trump. I don't know enough about the other 3. So of those 6, that would be my choice.
What do you know about him?
Not a lot, because I haven't done a lot of research yet. But I do like that he's a little more middle of the road, he seems to be. And I think that he could help unite the 2 parties, not be so antagonistic to either one.
Okay. And so what I'd like to know also is, would your vote for Kennedy be a vote because you like him, or is it a protest against having both Harris and Trump as your other main alternatives?
Probably more a protest.
Okay. And what concerns, if any, do you have about voting for someone who has no realistic chance of winning?
It's my right to vote, and it takes a vote away from the others.
Okay. Is there a specific issue that causes you to gravitate to him?
Not really, other than I just don't care for where the others stand on some of their issues.
Okay. Got it. All right. So 3 of you would take Chase Oliver. That's John, Jason, and Audra. So I'm going to ask the 3 of you, would you say it's more a vote for Oliver, or is it a protest against both Harris and Trump? Who would say it's a vote for Oliver? None of you. The 3 of you would say it's a protest vote. Okay. For the 3 of you, what concerns, if any, do you have about voting for someone who has no realistic chance of winning? Jason, tell me about that.
Yeah, I don't know if it concerns me that much. I feel like I could have voted for any of those other 4, Jill Stein, Cornel West. I think Libertarian mostly falls in line with my views more than the other 3. So it's kind of showing a support for those ideas, and then hopefully people can see that there is a constituent out there and try to attract them more for the next election, find somebody who fits more that mold.
Okay. How about you, Audra? What concerns do you have about voting for someone who has little chance of winning?
Actually, that is not my concern at all. over the years, I have voted Democrats, Republicans, and I have voted Libertarian before. I like some of the Libertarian ideas, just as I like some Democratic ideas and some Republican ideas, which is why my vote for Oliver would be a protest against the things I don't agree with for the other two parties. And I just, when they nominated him, I got on to take a look at sort of where he stood on some popular issues. And there was nothing that I found off the rails. I could follow his logic for his positions, and I do appreciate that.
Okay. And John, what about you?
For me, this would be the third election in a row, presidential election in a row, that I voted Libertarian, and it has been a protest vote previously as well as this election. And while I struggle with the fact that my candidate that I'm voting for doesn't have the opportunity to win, kind of similar to what Jason said, my hope would be that the Libertarian candidate would gain enough votes to capture the attention of the other two parties and perhaps move their platform in that direction.
Got it. All right, thank you. And June, quickly, with 6 of those options, none of them would appeal to you.
Well, after I've listened to some of the other ones that voted Libertarian, I might. But this is a hypothetical question, and my vote, as Audra said, all depends where my pen drops or my tears drop the day of voting. So I chose not to vote in that question because I think there's too many questions that need to be answered in my mind. And I don't know the Libertarian candidates. I haven't taken the time. I mean, this whole voting thing's changed like right now. As of Sunday, it changed. And I am worried in the direction in this country. I have 9 grandchildren and 1 great-grandchild. And it is unnerving for me to watch what's happening.
Thank you. So this is a question for all 7 of you. You may or may not be betting people. For the sake of this question, this is merely an intellectual question. It's not a dollar cents. It's not going to cost you anything to answer it one way or the other. So if someone required you to bet $50 on the outcome of this election, imagine it's Harris against Trump with the other third-party candidates also in the race. Which candidate would you bet on winning? Note I'm not asking who you want to win in terms of your personal preference. It's who would you put $50 on in order to win the bet? So, show of fingers. How many of you think that Harris will win this election if you had to put $50 on the outcome? 2 of you. How many of you would say Trump? You have to put $50 on the outcome. 5 of you. All right. So I gave you that first scenario and I locked it down. It was Trump versus Harris, no write-ins, or you just didn't vote. Okay? I'm going to ask you about a very different scenario. And Cindy's going to put it up on the screen. Please don't blurt anything out. So I want you to imagine the election is tomorrow, and these are your choices. Kamala Harris, Donald Trump, Robert Kennedy Jr., Cornel West, Jill Stein, Chase Oliver, who's the Libertarian Party candidate, or not voting. Imagine in your state, when you go to vote, you have these 6 choices, plus the choice of not voting. I want to get a sense who you would pick with these as your alternatives. Okay? So, a show of fingers, with these as your choices, how many of you would take Vice President Harris? We got Tiara and Melody. Who would take Trump with these choices? One second. I got Zach, Ronnie, Dale, and Barbara. Okay. Jennifer, who would you take in this scenario?
I'd have to research more, but maybe Robert Kennedy Jr.
Okay. Jennifer, let me ask you this. I'm sorry. What are the odds with those 6 choices you still wouldn't vote?
I don't know enough, to be honest, about Chase, Oliver, and Jill. I would want to do more research there to see where they stand on some issues. So I would say 25% chance not voting.
Okay, so there's a 75% chance you would vote. You would just pick one of these 6.
Yes.
Okay, got it. And right now you're leaning, sounds like you're leaning toward RFK Jr.
Leaning that way, yes.
Okay.
But I don't know enough about the platforms of a couple of them
Okay.
to make a decision.
So tell me why RFK Jr. is attractive to you.
Well, I know he's said so. Why he's not is he said some like crazy things about COVID and some other things like that. But his stance on abortion and some other things are more moderate, is my understanding.
Okay. What do you know about him?
To be honest, again, I would, if the election were tomorrow, I'd be doing a lot of research overnight, and my answer may change, to be honest. I don't know a ton other than I've heard some people say, hey, he's pro-life. There's some other things about him that are positive. I don't know his foreign policy experience. I don't know some other leadership things that I would need to know if I were voting tomorrow.
Yeah, we said you were aware of something about COVID, right?
Yeah, I just something, I don't know if it was hoax was used or something. I think he's said a couple of controversial, like, medical related statements, is my understanding, that are a little out there, fringe views.
Got it. And help me understand what do you think his position is on abortion?
I think he's pro-life.
Okay, and how would you describe yourself?
Pro-life.
Okay, got it. So with just Jennifer, just focusing on you, I'll get to the rest of you in a moment. Would your support for Kennedy be because you like him, or would it be more of a protest against Harris and Trump?
It'd be a protest against Harris and Trump. There are 6 other Republicans that probably I would rather, like Nikki is at the top of the list. Like I'd probably write her name in still. Even Rubio, there's just DeSantis even. I don't know. There's just a lot of people that I would have rather been at the top of the ticket.
Okay. And what concerns do you have, if any, about voting for someone who has no realistic chance of winning?
My own family said, hey, a vote for somebody who can't win is a vote for the Democratic Party. And I'd say, well, no, if I vote for the Democratic Party, that's like they're getting 2 votes because they're getting the Republican vote that I would have done. So me not voting is just 1 vote less instead of the 2. If I were to vote Democrat. I'm sorry, what was that?
Not voting or voting for RFK Jr.?
Oh, if I vote for him, again, I'm not helping Kamala out. So therefore, I think it's less egregious than me voting for Kamala.
Okay. And is there a specific issue that causes you to gravitate to RFK Jr.?
Yeah, and I'm embarrassed to say all I know is about the pro-life stuff, and that a couple people I know and respect like him. Other than, I'd have to do more research, and I probably should have done that coming into this panel today, but I
Glad
didn't.
you did. That's the perfect.
Right.
What you're thinking, not having to do research. All right. So this is for all 7 of you. Cindy, you can take it down. if some, I don't know whether you folks are betting people or not. If you are, great. If you're not, this is just an intellectual question. I'm not putting actual money on the table here. So just work with me. If someone required each of you to bet $50 on the outcome of the presidential election in November, assuming it's Harris versus Trump with the other third-party candidates mixed in, which candidate would you bet on winning? Note that I'm not asking who you want to win in terms of the outcome. I'm asking who you think realistically will win so you could win the $50. Everybody got the exercise? Like betting on a horse race. You're not invested in the horse necessarily, just betting on who you think is actually going to win. So by a show of fingers, who would put $50 on Harris winning the election? Four of you. Who would put it on Trump? Three of you. Okay. Raise your fingers again if you said Harris on that question. Barbara, what gives you confidence that Harris is going to win, that you'd be willing to put $50 on the outcome?
Because I think people are just sick of Trump. And I think that America's just going to say enough is enough and they're going to go with Harris.
Okay. The other three of you who said Harris, same reason or different reason?
For me, the latest polls I've seen, and they're close, but she this far ahead she went from being behind Trump to now surpassing him. And I know fundraising's been a little bit crazy in support of her as well. So that's part of those two reasons contribute for me.
Okay. You guys have a different reason?
I think she plays way better into.
Zach, go ahead.
I think she plays way better into the demographics. So, like Melody said, younger crowd, African American voters, or even just non-white voters, and then of course the anybody but Trump voters. So, which is a large portion. So the Democratic Party got a lot more unified from Biden stepping down.
Melody, why do you think that she would win?
Because she's younger and she's not Trump, and because he's not a real Republican.
Okay. Kiara, why do you think Trump would win? Why would you put $50 on him?
I'm just unsure, to be honest. So I would put it on him just in case, because you never know what's going to happen when it comes to Trump. I'm with Harris all the way, though.
Okay, you're with her, but you still think Trump's going to eke it out?
It's a possibility, you
Okay.
know, because people are unsure about her. And even though she is, you know, younger, and everything that y'all said, great. I agree with all of that. But at the end of the day, you just never know. There still are a lot of Trump supporters. So I'm just unsure.
Got it. Okay. Yeah, why do you think Trump will eke it out?
I think that there'll be a debate and Trump will shred Harris. And you'll have the same situation. Her weaknesses will be exposed.
Okay. Ronnie, what about you?
I listen to Trump, and the reason he wants RFK to stay in that race is because he will take Democratic votes, is what he's going to do.
Got it.
That's why I put my money on Trump.
Got it. All right. Thank you.